Hello, fellow teachers. I hope you're enjoying the Isaiah lessons. They're not too bad, pretty bite-sized and doable. This one is great that way. We're looking at the titles and roles of Jesus Christ. That's really our target, specifically trying to help students trust Jesus more as we study and understand his attributes and titles. We'll look at a few verses in Isaiah, but really highlight the names of Jesus that Isaiah uses. So I think we can do this and do this well. I thought I'd share just a few thoughts. I put them in green today in my manual. We start by getting the titles idea out there. Doctor, police officer, bishop, young women's president. It says write them on the board and ask questions. I like to involve students as much as possible so they're mobile, they're doing things. So I might say I need 4 volunteers to come up front, and instead of putting these names on the board, I might put them on a sticky note or rip a paper in half and just write on a marker. Don't take long, just simple, and have them wear the sign, doctor, police officer, bishop, young women's president, whatever, and you can do others and make up your own scenarios. And then they're standing in the front, and then you ask some students in the class, hey Timmy, if someone stole your bike, who are you going to talk to first? Give us the name up front. And it might be fun. They might say the doctor, but they should say the police officer. But we're just having fun and illustrating that titles matter. In fact, we look for titles based on our circumstance. And so this question that I underlined in red, how does knowing their titles help you understand what they're qualified to help with? It's kind of a shortcut. So all we're doing at the beginning of the lesson is establishing that we find use in knowing titles of people. We are drawn to people because we know what they're good at, what they do. Next thing I underlined in green is we're going to ease into this idea of titles. We're going to get to the titles of Jesus and that he helps us with problems of our day. And so we have consider dividing the board with a line in the middle, inviting students to list on one half difficult situations a teenager may face, and we'll use the other half later. To get more students involved, I might even say, let's do this in our journal. Everybody take out a piece of paper, raise your hand when everybody's ready, or raise your hand when everybody has we're just trying to get everybody on board and let them know we're serious. We want everybody to do this. And you might want to come up with 3 together or 4 or 5 and say, well, just circumstances that are hard, whether it's just stress from school or bullying or temptation or distraction or whatever it is, but have everybody list a few. But then I might ask students, can you list a couple more things on there that might be unique to you, things that are challenging in your life? And let them know that this list that they're creating, we're going to do something to really help them know that there are solutions and helps for them. And so this lesson is going to be a blessing with their life. So if we can establish that clearly, I think this lesson will be really relevant and meaningful and point us towards Christ. The next part of the lesson, we just kind of jumped to Isaiah. And as I read this the first time, I thought, well, this is a little disjointed because we got to titles and problems our day, and then all of a sudden we're just going to go have a lesson in 2nd Nephi about Ahaz and Hezekiah. And so you might want to buffer this a little bit by giving some background and saying, you know, people a long time ago in Isaiah, they had problems too. And one thing Isaiah was really good at was pointing them to Jesus Christ and using various titles. So let's just use this example. Let's look at 2nd Nephi 17, and let's see what's going on in their life that was hard and what titles for Jesus were used to show that Jesus could help them with their hard things. And so I don't think we have to make this disjointed. It might look a little that way on the surface, but you can be overt and letting them know this lesson, Isaiah, we're going to use it as a sample. And so as we set up the background, we kind of know, so we're just letting students know what's going on in these chapters in the background. We're then going to get heavily into titles as a Savior. And these are just fun. We're just going to quick look for. And again, instead of writing on the board, if we're using, and you can use the board if that's going to work best with your class, but I'm looking at a journal idea. They've got all the challenges for a teenager on one side and their personal challenges. Now let's start listing titles for Jesus. And so I'd do a couple of those together, but then you might be able to set them loose and just write a bunch of references on the board and say, these are other titles. I want you to find as many titles of Jesus and list them in your journal. I'm going to give you 3 minutes to do as many as you can, and then go. And so now they've got something in their journal that they can use for the rest of class. They've got it. In fact, a fun idea right here could be they've got the challenges of teenage life and the titles of Jesus to start matching a few. Say, okay, if stress is a challenge of a teenager, what title of Jesus is a good match for someone who's stressed out or who's bullied or who's distracted? And just show that Jesus's titles really help with our challenges of today. Last thought here. I think I really like this little activity where they're going to now select one title of the Savior that they want to know more about. To guarantee the success, or at least to make it more likely, I find it can be helpful to make sure that every student selects a title and maybe say, I'm going to give you just a few seconds to select a title that you really like today and you want to learn more about. And I want you to circle it in your journal because they've got all these titles listed, right? So let's have you circle it. And I'm going to have everybody just share quick, just which one you chose. By telling them that you're going to have them share, you invite them to actually pick one and commit to it. They're more likely to participate in this activity. And then you're going to give them these instructions. Say, we're going to, in a few minutes, have you present what you've learned. You're going to do these 4 things. You can just write these on the board and tell them, here's what you're going to do. First step, second step, find a story picture that shows a Savior modeling or showing this title, living this title, have some explanation. They can do this in their journal too. They keep notes, and then have a few share at the end of class what they chose and why. But what you've done by having them do it in their journal or on a piece of paper or whatever, you've given them something that you could keep referring to in class. And it's right there so they can have a meaningful experience. They have things to share, things to talk about because it's there. But remember, in all of this, our target for the day was at the top of the lesson here. We want to help students trust Jesus by understanding his attributes and titles. And so you can end class by saying, how does this title that you've studied today help you love and trust and rely more on Jesus? How does that title do that for you? And allow them to bear testimony of Jesus through what they've learned. I think you'll do wonderfully. This is a great lesson. Have a great time. Thanks for all that you do.